Hello everyone, I'm Shweta Verma, presenting to you yet another episode of Excel Forum, an Accelerate ExPGDM initiative. Today we have with us Mr. Sriram Iyer. He is a certified strength coach and human resource practitioner with over 2 decades of experience. He has helped anchor complex cross-border staffing initiatives spanning multiple geographies, business units, and technology segments. Based in Singapore since January 2012, he has strong exposure to the JAPAC region and has knowledge of a cultural and immigration-related nuances of the region. Since 2018, he is the founder and CEO of hrtech.sg, a Singapore-focused HRTech-focused market development and analyst firm that helps Singapore enterprises in identifying the right fit, best-in-class HR tech solution for solving their business and HR challenges. Prior to becoming an entrepreneur, he has also played leadership role with Singtel Group and Cognizant Technology Solutions in Singapore and India. He is a proud alumnus of National University of Singapore and Symbiosis Institute of International Business in India. So, the podium is all yours, sir. Venkat, you can start with your questions and we'll start the interaction.
Sure. Thanks, sir, for this opportunity, and we welcome you for the Excel Forum. So we have a few questions for you. I would like to start with the first one. So as we know, the ability to work remotely right now has become one of the most sought out employee perks. But it has also become quite an administrative challenge. And businesses right now have a set of new problems. So how does HR tech help in facilitating remote work? We would like to know your insights on this.
Thank you for the question. But at the outset, thank you very much to the Excel Forum for having me here. Really humbled at this opportunity. To answer your question, Venkat, now the risk of sounding cliched, I need to say this. The pandemic has actually become the accelerator for one of our greatest workplace transformations of our lifetime. You know, how we attract and hire talent, how we work, where we work, how our work is getting measured, how do we communicate with individuals and manage teams, how do we price the jobs, reward employees, all of it has been changed forever. So every segment of the employee life cycle has been impacted. Business models have got impacted. People strategies have got impacted. So hybrid or remote work is definitely the norm. And as we speak, there are HR teams in every corner of this world. They're having a crash course on hybrid work. And frankly, many aren't passing the test successfully. So last year, our clients kept asking as to when work could be back to usual and when they can go back to office. Now they've stopped asking that question because they've really understood that the future of work is all going to be digital and hybrid. But not surprisingly, as a result of that, we are seeing an unprecedented demand for HR technology. And HR teams are there looking for newer systems to automate and digitalize their entire HR process. So let me break it down. Across the entire employee life cycle, we are seeing HR tech playing a key role in every segment. Let's start with talent planning. With roles and skills becoming redundant at an accelerated fashion, technology tools are helping companies in short-term and long-term strategic workforce planning. They are helping them forecast workforce demand, helping them forecast the workforce cost, the skills of the future, all by analyzing global industry data. So we're talking really about global big data sets. So technology is helping in talent planning. Next, let's look at talent acquisition. HR tech is again helping recruiters and the HR team manage the entire recruiting process remotely and virtually. So we've got smart talent marketplaces, AI-driven applicant tracking systems, chatbots for screening candidates, one-way and two-way video interview platforms, blockchain-based background and reference checks, remote new hire onboarding and engagement platforms, so on and so forth. So all these technology solutions have helped the recruitment team hire better quality talent, better culture fit talent at much, much lower cost. So technology again comes to the help in the talent acquisition. Now, after talent acquisition in the employee life cycle, let's come to talent engagement. So technology is now helping HR teams engage with the employees to understand their sentiment, to communicate with them, administer surveys for soliciting feedback and sentiment, recognizing and rewarding their performance, promoting health and wellness through technology, among all other aspects. Basically, to create a very, very positive employee experience, technology is again coming to help in the employee engagement space. Now, let's look at talent development. Today, employees want hyper-personalized programs that can deliver very, very intuitive learning experiences for each employee. So technology has been very integral in that space too. So there are smart learning management systems which can help assign courses remotely to users, track progress, administer assessments seamlessly and in a remote fashion. So that's technology in talent development. Let's look at compensation and benefits. Again, with reduced reduced budgets for salaries and HR budgets, technology is proving to be really helpful to HR teams in customizing performance-based, individualized pay structure. They can now do compensation planning on software rather than a large Excel sheet, which most companies still do. So tech tools are actually helping plug leakage of dollars, valuable dollars, because technology is used in now compensation planning and management. Finally, if you were to look at HR operations, now chatbots and automation are being seamlessly used by companies, which takes away the tactical work that HR teams earlier used to do, right? Responding to queries of employees on leave or salary or some of these basic aspects. Now bots and automation is doing it. So in my opinion, the biggest advantage of leveraging technology tools is talent analytics. So traditionally, HR teams always relied on intuition-based decision making. Now with talent analytics, they are able to make data-driven decision making, which has substantially helped in driving business outcomes. So if you look at the entire life cycle, technology today is helping the HR teams in managing employees and teams in a hybrid work or in a remote work format.
Thank you, sir. That answered my question.
So just a follow-up question on this. So what do you feel about when employee gets onboarded and new employee has to engage with his team? So on a virtual platform, it's difficult for a new employee to engage with his full team. So what do you feel about this?
See, definitely you cannot replace a physical interaction with a virtual interaction. But technology tools can definitely help alleviate the situation. So it's somewhere between a complete no interaction to a physical interaction, right? You have to create a positive employee experience, especially for new joiners. Let me cite an example. A very large IT service company had actually offered to one of my acquaintances. This person did get an offer letter stating that this was the joining date. You need to report for duty on this date at this venue. And we're talking about right in the center of, right in the midst of the lockdown, right? This candidate called up the HR team and said, I've got this offer letter. I can't report for duty on this date and this venue. They said, yes, just ignore it. It's been auto-generated by the system. We really cannot do anything about it. And you don't have to report to office. So she was quite relieved. And then again, she wanted to inquire about the laptop and other hardware related aspects. The recruitment team informed her that on the first day, the supervisor would inform her about the next steps on the laptop and other related aspects. Now, what is the kind of experience that you're providing to the candidate who's joining on day one and who's completely clueless on this, right? This is not the experience that you would like to provide to a remote new hire. This is where technology steps in, provides you pre-onboarding seamless aspects on the day of onboarding. 0 to 90 days is essentially the critical period for any new hire, right? So the system can, match them with a mentor or a buddy and then track progress, and can even ensure that the person is able to, with sentiment analysis, ensure whether the new hire is able to have positive experience or not. So at every point in the 0 to 90 days, which is very, very critical in some companies, it's 0 to 180 days, technology can really play a seamless role in smooth onboarding. And that is why we emphasize technology has to be leveraged.
Yes, sir, definitely.
Hello, sir. Pratik this side. Thank you so much for taking out your time to interact with us. Sir, I had one question in my mind. In previous times, to carry out the HR operations, at first we were using ERP softwares. Then came the era of cloud software tools. So, and as you told in your previous statement, in today's world, almost every organization as well as HRTech is into the adoption of new age HR technologies, which include usage of AI, ML, and blockchain. So my question is what do you feel like? What are the opportunities as well as the challenges for the HR professionals who will be using those technologies? So will it be hampering them, or is it going to benefit them in some way?
Thanks, Pratik. As a passionate HR technology advocate, I strongly feel the need for HR teams to leverage technology in an accelerated fashion. I did talk about this earlier. The key reason is we need to have the HR teams move from a traditional intuition-based decision-making to a data-driven decision-making approach. To be seen as a strategic business partner, they need to leverage technology and analytics, and that is going to be really critical. Otherwise, the HR function is going to be relegated as an operational or a business support partner and move to the back end. So need to leverage technology and analytics to be seen as a strategic business partner. The entire business environment has become very volatile, complex. HR budgets are getting reduced. So in such a scenario where every dollar spent is critical, leveraging technology can substantially help the HR teams improve their productivity, achieve more bang for the buck. And that's a huge opportunity that is being presented today to HR teams. But to cite a challenge that you are asking about, let's look at the Singapore HR job transformation map that was published by Workforce Singapore and the Institute for Human Resource Professionals Singapore. The JTM clearly said that 90% of Singapore HR jobs are going to be impacted by technology in the next 3 to 5 years. I repeat, 90% of Singapore HR jobs are going to be impacted by technology in the next 3 to 5 years. So the impact of technology on HR jobs is going to be really immense. But the challenge is HR teams are still very, very slow to react to it and are not upskilling themselves for this evolving trend. Whether they like it or not, technology is going to fast get into the HR function. And so the HR teams really need to adopt it in an accelerated fashion. In fact, in some companies, there has been resistance by HR teams to adopt technology. There is a lot of insecurity amongst them that machines could take over the roles and they could become redundant. So this insecurity is often ignored by the leadership teams, which is actually further aggravating the scenario and affecting the morale of the employees. I would say the HR teams have to openly embrace technology to ensure that they are in line with the future trends. Avoiding them is not going to really help them at this point of time.
Thank you so much, sir. That answers my question.
Sir, I have one more question for you. What, according to you, are the common roadblocks or pitfalls to avoid during the digital HR transformation programs?
Perfect. We've been working with clients on a lot of digital HR transformation programs, and I would like to cite 4 to 5 key learnings from some of these large transformation programs. Number one, change management is completely missing in action. So you need to have very, very efficient, effective project and change management plans as part of the digital strategy to ensure that implementation is smooth and there is no error, or there is no scope for error, or even if there is error, how to quickly manage it. So change management is really important, but that seems to be missing. Number two, Most companies are actually starting with the solution, not the problem. What do you mean by that? HR teams are more focused on technology than what is intended to achieve. They need to look at the business problem that they are trying to solve, rather than trying to force fit a technology into the entire workflow. So you need to start with the problem you are trying to solve. The HR teams usually come to us and say, hey, we have decided to go ahead with this technology. What would you advise? I would say definitely that's not the right approach. You have to take a step back and find out what is the problem you are trying to solve, rather than starting with the solution. Number 3, as MBA professionals, you definitely know the importance of culture, right? Most companies just focus on strategy, not the culture. We all know the famous management quote that culture eats strategy for breakfast. So most implementations fail because, not just because of technology, because they fail to implement it in alignment with the culture of the organization. So they try to implement a technology, but the leadership is really not bothered about the technology implementation. So the employees down the hierarchy are going to see, if the leaders are not going to adopt it, why should I adopt it? You need to focus time on understanding the culture and align the digital strategy to the culture. Number 4, not measuring what you want to accomplish. HR teams usually do not identify key metrics for measuring the effectiveness of their program. So when you don't know what you are going to measure, you really are not going to be very, very successful. So you need to have clear measurement metrics in place, clear ROI metrics in place, which you can measure to track the progress. Number 5, and the most important thing, change is essentially not a destination, but a journey. I have had HR teams who would come and say, hooray, we have implemented and we have gone live. And they talk as if it's the end of the journey. Actually, they should be saying, hooray, we have gone live. Now is the start of the journey, right? Most organizations consider go live as the end of the road. It's the beginning of the journey, essentially. So these are 4 or 5 critical aspects that I would say are common roadblocks or pitfalls to avoid during the HR transformation program.
Thank you, sir. Well done.
Sir, I have a follow-up question on that. So, like you rightly mentioned about the culture fitment. So, since most of our students will be graduating next year, who are doing MBA, are doing their MBA in online platforms. So, how difficult would it be for them to fit to that culture, to that corporate culture, and even in the work from office conditions? So, what is your take on this?
Interesting question. In fact, either early this year or last year, the Singapore Deputy Prime Minister in his speech talked about how the Singapore government was doing everything possible to support the lockdown generation. He said that the youth of this generation could have their skills, employability, incomes affected significantly even after the world recovers from the pandemic. So, in my opinion, it is important globally that governments and the private sector, they need to come together to address this situation, to support the cohorts that are graduating during this pandemic. It's really important to provide them the support. Well, that's not the perspective that I was coming to. To answer your question very specifically, let's start with the positive aspect. So if the workplace is going to be remote and hybrid, and if the learning that this cohort has been on a similar remote and hybrid format, definitely the students are well placed to understand the challenges of the employees, and therefore they are able to create the right employee experience when they get into the workforce. And as long as the pedagogy has involved new and immersive tools, then it is going to really help the students. So they are going to value the need for technology a lot more, and they are going to implement technology again at the workplace to create the right user and employee experience. So definitely that's the positive aspect of it. But if you look at the other side of the coin, what would happen perhaps is that deep employee connections, peer-to-peer connections might not get developed, which might make the relations too ephemeral, right? The typical water cooler conversations are really important to build the bond between employees, peers, and colleagues. that might be really missing. And that's where, this company culture and the HR really needs to step in to create a culture of innovation and collaboration. That is going to be really critical to ensure that this lockdown generation, or the cohort which is graduating through the pandemic, really gets integrated into the organization.
Thank you, sir. Thank you for
Sir, I have one question. Since I am from IT background, and all of my understanding application of what I am getting at here at Accelerate revolves, and my thought process is somewhat inclined towards IT practices. So my question, and from my past experience, what I have been seeing from last 6 years is that there is a significant shift in technology. I mean, first it was ERP, then came RPA, and these days we are into an era where we call that everything is going through the digital transformation. So from a perspective, kind of employee perspective, I wanted to know, like, what is the trend, which is going throughout the IT sector. I mean, is IT imperative? I mean, the skills what were before, like there were like many technologies, Java, .NET and all. So is AI, ML, Python, cloud, these technologies are going to replace the existing one, or it is imperative for everyone in IT to get adapted to these new technologies, which is the core of digital transformation in every business? So I just wanted some insights on this part.
Shweta, I think what is really happening is today there is a lot of focus on skills rather than roles. Okay, earlier people used to be a tester, a manual tester and an automation tester, and they get trained for it. Today there's a lot of focus on skills, and what is very important for each one of us is to ensure we really think into the future, to look at what are the future skills and try to ensure that we are constantly upgrading ourselves. Your question is very difficult to answer. I do not want to talk about specific technology, right? But what is very important is that we need to be constantly at the cutting edge of the upskilling game, or sometimes reskilling game if the technology gets redundant. A lot of roles, right? If you look at it, 5-10 years back, a manual tester role was really prominent. Today you do not. I mean, an automation tester, a lot of them are progressing into some of the dev role, right? So roles are becoming redundant, but what we need to focus on is I have these skills which are essentially problem solving skills, analytical skills. I need to ensure that I'm constantly at the top of the game on that. But from a specific technology perspective, we need to keep upgrading ourselves all the time. The pace at which we are seeing technology becoming redundant and new ones replacing is unforced. I mean, is really we have never seen at an accelerated fashion of technology becoming redundant. So the short answer to your question is, let's not be too much worried about technology. Let's ensure we are constantly on the upskilling or the reskilling game.
Thank you, sir. It was really very insightful.
Hi, sir. So I have one more question from my side. Actually, I was quite curious about this question. So, sir, you went on to do your executive MBA from NUS. That was 20 years after your first MBA that you did from Symbiosis in international business. So, was there any specific reason for that? And what was the thought process in choosing to do your executive MBA, and any learnings from this journey that you'd like to share with us?
The trigger actually happened when I got to read an article in the Straits Times that talked about how Stanford University's Distinguished Careers Institute, they offer a year-long program for executives and professionals like you. But the only difference is these executives and professionals are in their 50s and 60s. That really struck me. And Dr. Laura, who is the director of Stanford's Center on Longevity, had quoted in the article saying that 50 years from now, no one's going to think of universities as places just for people in their teens and 20s. And imagine if you're going to live for 100 years or older, right? You are definitely expected to go back to school to learn new technologies, and probably several times as an adult. In fact, there was a Bollywood film where the protagonist actually went with her son to the college, right? I would definitely say that's going to be a reality very, very soon. All of us need to keep going back to campuses. And trust me, you would really need to go back to Excel every few years to keep your saw sharpened. Now, 20 years back when I graduated from business school, I had no knowledge of the business world. After 20 years of work experience, and then I hit my midlife crisis, then I really had to take a couple of crucial professional decisions. And one of which was to enroll myself into the executive MBA program of NUS. And as they say, probably there has been no looking back after that, because it has really given me that value addition where I'm going to able to relate my work experience with the theory part of it. Earlier, I just had the theory and then I had to apply it. Now, with the 20 years of practical application, this new theory gave me fresh perspectives. And graduating out of NUS, the first thing that I did was to quit my job and embark on the entrepreneurial journey, because that really helped me. The entrepreneurial subject that we had in NUS really helped me on that. Maybe my next MBA, my third MBA, I don't have to wait for 20 years, and it will probably happen faster. Now, you were asking about the key learning, right? I strongly feel that as HR teams, right, we have the unenviable task of skilling, upskilling, reskilling the organization, and we also need to upskill and reskill ourselves. But most HR teams, they cite lack of time as a reason for not upscaling themselves. That needs to change. I have always, looked up to what Stephen Covey had said as his 7th law, right? Sharpen the saw. And sharpening the saw cannot typically happen only with on-the-job training. We need to go back to the classroom, stay with the cohort, learn maximum from the faculty and the peers and the fellow students. That's really going to be important.
Definitely, sir. I completely agree with you. The same thing that we are also feeling after coming back to campus and coming back to studies. Thank you so much.
Sir, any suggestions you have for the students passing out from MBA colleges like us?
I just have to reiterate what I told you now. Education, learning, skilling is a continuous game. And do not think only on-the-job training is going to really help you. You will probably definitely have to go back to campus, to a classroom scenario every few years to upskill and reskill ourselves. So that's the important advice that I would really like to share with the MBA graduates.
Thank you so much, sir.
Thank you very much.
Sorry, sir. Sorry for the interruption.
Go ahead, Sriram.
No, I was telling we are in the end of the session, so I request Shivam Jindal to give vote of thanks on the behalf of XLRI Jamshedpur.
Thank you, sir. On behalf of our entire team, I would like to thank you for your kind words and insightful session. You talked about life cycle of an employee when he gets into an organization virtually, and role of technology in the HR processes. You gave us the 5 key learnings which are required for HR transformation: role of change management, identifying business problems, importance of culture, having clear measurement metrics, changes the journey ahead. And you talked about upskilling and reskilling, which are required for the new graduates and for everyone in the industry. So it was a very insightful session and enriching one. It was It was a pleasure for us to be a part of this enriching session. Thank you again, sir.
Thank you very much, Pratik, Venkat, Shivam, and Shweta for having me here. Thank you to the Excel Forum. Really enjoyed this discussion and hope the students really benefit from this.
Definitely, sir. Definitely.
Definitely,
Sir.
Thank you so much.
Thank
you
you very
Romba.
much, sir, for your time.
Romba Nandri, sir.
Thank you very
Thank you
much.
so much, sir. Have a nice day, sir.
Okay, bye-bye. See you.
Thank you.